Messengers of Deception by Jacques Vallee, and I'm probably not doing this dude's name justice. I see it in print all the time, but I don't encounter it enough hearing it that I can't tell you for sure if that's how to say it or not. But Messengers of Deception by Jacques Vallee, great, great book, great UFO book. This is, I think, one of the more pivotal, important works of UFO literature, which is kind of funny given that this was originally printed in 1977, I believe, 79. So Mr. Vallee is, I'm not sure what all his credit. I know he is he's got some serious scientific credentials, and forgive me for not rattling him off appropriately, but he is famous for kind of bringing a scientific edge to his UFO research and really trying to really dig into what exactly was behind the phenomenon. And in this book, he really takes a deep dive, to use current vernacular there. He does a deep dive into this from a social perspective of the social implications of the UFO phenomenon, and really digs into some of these early accounts of people interacting with supposed aliens and such, and comes to the conclusion that some group, and I'm paraphrasing here because he's kind of all over the place. My one complaint with this is that he doesn't give a really clear, cohesive thesis or conclusion to this at the end and say, here's what I think is happening. So he's kind of all over the place. So I'm paraphrasing here, but basically his conclusion is that there's some group, or maybe multiple groups, that are trying to use the UFO phenomenon to shape the public mind. So to kind of shape the group consciousness of the planet, to steer everybody towards, and this, as I mentioned before, kind of a modern form of myth making, that he believes that they're using the UFO phenomenon as a way to create almost a new religious branch for everybody to go out on. And that's, in its implications, when you really think of the broader implications of that, are huge, because if you can change the spiritual underpinning of everyone's worldview, you can greatly change or lead people in whatever direction you want. If you can actually create a whole new false system of belief that's based on something you want it to be based on, and you have control over what the messengers are saying, the prophets and so forth, and you can insert into their mouths whatever you want them to say. You think about the implications of that. The way I was explaining it to my oldest child was, I said, if you wanted to convey a powerful message to an audience, what do you think is going to have the most power? If you have a celebrity talk about a product on hold up a tennis shoe and say, hey, I wear Nike shoes, that's pretty powerful. If you were to have a politician extol the virtues of a certain type of shoe or something like that, that would be maybe even a little bit more powerful. If you were to have a team of scientists, and supposedly unbiased scientists and philosophers, explaining why your shoe is the best out there, and that's the best thing to wear if you want to be the fastest runner and the most comfortable person. All those things are important, but what if you could make someone feel like a religious experience had told them that this shoe was the best shoe? What if somebody actually believed aliens or angels or what have you were the source of this information? They're probably going to believe that. So if you really want someone to believe a message, putting it in the mouths of a supernatural or extraterrestrial force or being is probably going to be the most effective, highest form of communication as far as convincing someone that this is really critical information. And Vallee gets into that deep in this about how many times the Space Brothers have descended and abducted someone and given them this critical message. And he says a lot of these messages wind up being very dated and sometimes seem to very conveniently align with certain political and social movements that are happening at the time. So really good information on that. Like I said, this is another one of those that I would love to see an up-to-date writing of this. I think you could write probably several volumes and a really good one up to date now on a lot of the things that have happened since then. One of the really curious things that he includes in this is the Heaven's Gate cult, the guy that got everybody to kill themselves out in California, allegedly, by eating cyanide-laced applesauce, I think it was. And then they all laid down and put orange or purple diamonds over themselves and wore certain kinds of shoes, allegedly to be picked up by a UFO. The Hale-Bopp comet or something like that. He talks about that guy in here. I can't think of his name, Applegate or something like that. He talks about that guy in here and warns, is like, somebody needs to be watching this guy because he's going to cause some trouble. And indeed he did. So for the historical element of that, that alone is worth running this down and reading some of his take on the social impact, the potential social impact of the UFO movement. I said there's a few times in here where he kind of leaves the rails and you can't tell exactly what he's trying to get across. It's and you could tell he doesn't really want to take a hard position on any of this because of the implications of such. But really good though. And again, I would love to see this updated. He's another one of those dudes I would love to talk to and say, just ask him, what he thinks of all this now. And this is a very, Martin Cannon's work, I think, is cited this. Martin Cannon's the controller, cited this. But anyway, this is a great book, great reference, and important key, I think, an important piece of that UFO puzzle. If you're working to kind of assemble that together and figure out, I think this is a really important piece of that and understanding what may or may not be driving the modern UFO movement. So there you go, Messengers of Deception by Jaque Vallee. I think I'm saying that right.